Hi guys, I'm Red from Sugdo Attorneys, and today I'm going to talk to you about the do's and don'ts when you apply for an interim protection order in terms of the Domestic Violence Act. Now, if you recall, I did do a video previously that discussed the process that occurs when you make an application for a protection order in terms of the Domestic Violence Act. I mentioned to you that if it's a prima facie case, the court can grant an interim protection order. If there's no prima facie case, the court will ask the respondent to appear and give reasons as to why an order should not be issued. Today, I'm going to just briefly explain to you the forms that needs to be filled out and the do's and don'ts when you actually are filling out particular forms. Now, one of the forms that you need to fill out is the Form 6, and that is the form that you will receive from the clerk's offices when you go to the magistrate's court and you make an application for the interim protection order. So I have a form in front of me that I'm just going to quickly put up. This is what the Form 6 looks like. And the first page of the Form 6 is asking you for your particular details. So you would have to place in your details on this particular form. It will also ask you in what capacity that you're actually making the application. So you could make the application in your own capacity or on behalf of somebody else. You can even be a social worker or a police individual healthcare personnel or medical practitioner if you're concerned about the particular victim that can make this actual application. After that particular section, you would need to put in the particulars of the perpetrator. So right at the bottom here would be the particulars of the perpetrator. Is the perpetrator a boyfriend, a brother, mother, partner, and so forth and so on? And that is followed by the perpetrator's details. So it'll ask for the perpetrator's name, surname, ID number, where the perpetrator resides, what job does the perpetrator do, and so forth and so on. Thereafter, it will ask you for the relevant information pertaining to the acts of domestic violence. So you see right at the bottom here, you'll have to detail exactly what occurred and why you are making the application, and your opinion that the conduct falls within the ambit of the Domestic Violence Act insofar as the conduct relates to an act of domestic violence. Thereafter, it would ask you for the most recent events that occurred, and you'll have to detail them here. And that will be followed closely by any other relevant information and whether there's any urgency in this particular application. So you'd have to detail it. There's no information that you should include here that's not relevant. And also try and not be brief. Try and detail exactly what actually occurred. It is then followed by a request for further details regarding the current situation in terms of residence is concerned. Are you staying in the same property as the particular perpetrator? Does he have or she have access to a firearm? As well as, are there any kids involved? Whether the perpetrator is on drugs? So you'd find that right at the bottom and the middle or toward the bottom of the page that deals with further details, further information. And that's important because the court would have a look at this particular information when the court is making an order as to what acts of domestic violence should be prohibited and what further orders it can make in terms of a particular firearm, whether there are kids in the property, whether the perpetrator is paying maintenance or is someone that provides for rental or payments towards a mortgage. These are all the orders that the court can make, that these particular financial obligations still remain intact, as well as access to the kids. That's in the best interest considering the situation. So these are just some of the information that you would have to put into the actual application. It is then followed by point 6 of the particular documentation that ask you to tick exactly what you wish to be prohibited, and that would be you just ticking the relevant boxes as to how many forms of domestic violence acts are currently being perpetrated, and what you require. The additional conditions, as I've already mentioned to you, what the court can actually grant, you'd have to actually detail them here as to the extent of the financial obligations, the maintenance, whether you are aware of a particular gun or weapon that the perpetrator has in his or her possession. You'd have to put that in there. It is then followed by index of annexures to the form, and you'll see that here. And that is all the relevant evidence that you are going to be placing before the court. So any annexures, it could be documents, it could be WhatsApp chats, emails, anything at all that is important for the determination of the actual application. You would need to include. You'd write them down here at the bottom, state exactly the nature and scope of it on the right hand side, and then hand that over to the clerk with your application. This is important as well because the court has to look at the evidence that you're putting forward. And like I've mentioned to you, the court will have to ascertain whether you have a prima facie case or not for an interim order, or if the court's not going to grant an interim order, calling on the other party to appear on a specific date for an order to be issued. What is also important is that if you have witnesses that can put up statements or affidavits, please do get those affidavits and attach them to your actual application. There's also a secondary form that needs to be filled out, but that's more for personal office use by the relevant department, where it'll ask you for brief information about yourself. So you have to fill that out. That won't be served on the other party. What will be served is the actual application and all the relevant annexures, any supporting documentation, or any other evidence that you have furnished to the court. Now, for more information on protection orders, whether you are trying to ascertain whether you should move for an application or not, or you're defending a protection order, please contact me on 082 757 2279 or email me on rohed@sattorneys.co.za.